Hello, my name is Caleb. I'm 26, and I spend my days hauling bricks and bags of cement at a construction site on the outskirts of Tucson, Arizona. It's the kind of job that starts before the sun is fully up and ends when the heat finally starts to fade. I leave the rental house at 6 sharp every morning, boots already dusted from the day before, thermos of black coffee in one hand, keys in the other. The work is heavy, honest, and it keeps my mind empty in a way I like. No room for overthinking when your shoulders are burning and your shirt is soaked through. I live alone in a small one-bedroom place a few miles from the site. Peeling paint on the walls, a couch that sags in the middle, fridge that's more empty than full most days. I don't complain, it's mine. After rent and bills. There's enough left for takeout on Fridays and a six-pack on Saturdays. I don't date much. Haven't in a while. The last girl I saw back in community college moved to Phoenix for a better job and never looked back. That was 2 years ago. Since then, it's just been me, the job, and the quiet. That particular Saturday, the crew was pushing to finish loading a late delivery before the weekend shutdown. The sun was brutal, hanging low and orange, turning the dust into a haze. I had my sleeves rolled high, gloves half torn, sweat running down my back in steady lines. I bent to grab another stack of bricks, muscles straining, when I heard her voice behind me. "You should wear thicker gloves. Your hands are going to tear open." I straightened up slow, wiping my forehead with the back of my wrist. It was Eleanor. She came by most weekends to check inventory, clipboard in hand, always professional, always a little distant. 39, sharp features, dark hair usually pulled back tight. She wore simple white button-ups and dark pants, sunglasses that hid half her expression. She wasn't the type to chat with the crew. Most days she just nodded, signed off, and left. But today she was closer than usual, standing just a few feet away, arms crossed loose. Something in her posture felt off, like she wasn't here for the manifest. "Caught me," I said, managing a half smile. "These are on their last leg." She didn't laugh or walk away. Instead, she stepped forward, reached into her bag, and pulled out a roll of medical tape. Before I could react, she took my right hand, rough, calloused, a fresh scrape across the knuckles, and started wrapping it. Her touch was careful, deliberate, not hesitant, not rushed, just sure. Our eyes met when she finished the last loop. She didn't let go right away. The air felt thicker, the distant clank of metal and voices fading out. "You know," she said, voice low enough that I had to lean in to hear. I always told myself I'd never notice someone younger. Not seriously. Then I started watching you out here every day. Patient, careful, so damn quiet. My heart slammed once hard against my ribs. I couldn't find words. Eleanor, elegant, guarded Eleanor, was looking at me like she saw something no one else bothered to. She seemed to realize what she'd said a second later. Her hand dropped and she took a step back, the professional mask sliding into place. A small, almost embarrassed smile. "Sorry, that just came out." She turned and walked toward her car, heels clicking soft on the gravel. I stood there holding the tape she'd left in my palm, watching the dust settle behind her. The sun dipped lower, painting everything gold and red, but all I could feel was the spot on my hand where her fingers had been. That night I didn't sleep much. Kept replaying her words, the way her voice dropped on quiet, like it was something rare. Something she wanted. I told myself it was nothing. A slip. Heat stroke talking. But I knew better. It was the first time anyone had ever looked at me like I was more than just the guy who carried the load. And for the first time in years, the quiet didn't feel peaceful. It felt like waiting. The next day, I dragged my feet on purpose, staying late to help unload a stray pallet that didn't need unloading. I told myself it was just to finish the job right, but really, I was hoping to catch a glimpse of Eleanor. She didn't show. The office trailer stayed dark, her usual parking spot empty. I went home that night feeling stupid, like a kid waiting for a text that never comes. The whole week played out the same. I'd catch myself glancing toward the gate every time a car pulled in, heart picking up speed only to crash when it wasn't her. By Friday, I was pissed at myself. It was one conversation, one slip from her. I needed to let it go, but I couldn't shake it. The way her voice had softened. The warmth of her fingers on my skin. It stuck like the desert dust that never quite washes off. Then, 8 days later, she appeared. I was stacking rebar when I spotted her walking across the lot, sunglasses on, even though the sun was behind clouds. Her right wrist was wrapped in a thin bandage. She moved like nothing was wrong, but I saw the slight wince when she shifted her clipboard. I wiped my hands on my jeans and walked over before I could talk myself out of it. "Hey, what happened to your wrist?" She glanced down like she'd forgotten it was there. "Motorcycle mishap, nothing serious." Her tone was flat, the professional wall back up. She didn't meet my eyes for long, just nodded at the manifest and started checking boxes. That was it. No mention of the tape or the words she'd let slip. I went back to work feeling like an idiot all over again. That evening, I was on the couch with a beer and some mindless TV when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. The message was simple. "If you're not busy, come up for tea. Eleanor." Followed by an address a few blocks from the site. I stared at the screen longer than I should have. Part of me wanted to delete it, pretend I never saw. But I was out the door in minutes, driving the short distance with the windows down, desert air whipping through the cab. Her building was an older complex, 3 stories, stucco walls faded by the sun. 3rd floor, door cracked open like she was expecting me. I knocked anyway. She opened it wider, barefoot in jeans and a loose sweater, hair down for a change. The apartment smelled like cinnamon and something herbal, tea, I guessed. "Come in," she said, stepping aside. "I needed company tonight. Hope that's okay?" The invite was impulsive. The place was small but put together. Mismatched furniture that somehow worked, plants on the windowsill, warm light from a couple lamps. No TV blaring, just quiet. She motioned to the couch, disappeared into the kitchen. I sat, feeling out of place in my work boots and dusty shirt. She came back with 2 mugs, handed me one. Chamomile with a hint of spice. We sat in silence for a minute, sipping. Then she started talking. Not about the wrist, but everything else. "I used to have a little art studio downtown," she said, staring into her tea. "Painted, taught classes on weekends. It was mine. Then my husband died suddenly. Heart thing. One day he was there, controlling every damn detail of my life. The next, gone." She paused, fingers tracing the mug's rim. I didn't push, just listened. "He wasn't kind about my work. Called it a hobby, said it didn't pay enough. Made me feel small. After he passed, I closed the studio, couldn't face the canvases without hearing his voice. So I took this job. Inventory, supervision. Something structured. Safe." Her voice was steady, but I saw the way her shoulders tightened. Like saying it out loud cost her. I set my mug down. "And after that, you didn't let anyone in?" She looked at me then, really looked. A sad smile tugged at her lips. "It's not that I didn't want to love again. It's that I didn't dare. What if the next person saw me the same way? Or worse, what if I let them in and lost them too?" The room felt smaller, the air heavier. I wanted to say something profound, tell her she deserved better. But words felt cheap. So I just reached over, refilled her mug from the pot on the table. My hand brushed hers, accidental, but neither of us moved away. We talked until the tea went cold. Not about us, not yet. About the desert nights, the way the city lights look from the hills, stupid stuff from work. But underneath it all was this current, this pull. She wasn't the guarded supervisor anymore. She was Eleanor, raw, real, letting me see the cracks. When I left around midnight, she walked me to the door. "Thanks for coming," she said softly. "I didn't realize how quiet it gets here." "Anytime," I replied. And I meant it. Driving home, the streets empty and dark, I realized something had shifted again. That night wasn't just company for her. It was the start of something for me too. The quiet wasn't empty anymore, it was full of her. Those evening teas became a habit. Not dates, we never called them that, just ritual. A couple times a week I'd text or she'd message first, and I'd show up after my shift with whatever was easy. Sandwiches from the corner deli, a bag of burgers, once a box of donuts because I remembered she liked the glazed ones. She'd have the tea ready, something warm and spiced, the apartment lit low and quiet. We talked more freely as the weeks slid by, about everything and nothing. She'd tell me about the kids in her old art classes, the way their eyes lit up when they mixed the exact shade they wanted. I'd talk about the crew at work, the foreman who never remembered anyone's name right, the way the desert smells different after rain. We laughed at small things. Sometimes we didn't talk at all, just sat on her couch, shoulders almost touching, listening to the hum of the fridge or the distant traffic. People started noticing. At the site, one of the older guys elbowed me while we were unloading rebar. Saw you leaving the office trailer late last week, kid. Eleanor keeping you overtime? He grinned like it was a joke, but his eyes said something else. I brushed it off, but it stuck. Then I caught the way some of the crew watched when she walked the lot, the murmurs when she lingered a second too long near wherever I was working. She noticed, too. Her posture got a little straighter, her smiles a little tighter when others were around. One night I showed up with pizza, the box still hot against my palm. We ate on her coffee table, cross-legged on the floor like teenagers. The conversation drifted the way it always did, easy and slow. Then something in me snapped. Or maybe it just finally caught up. I set my slice down and looked at her straight. Eleanor, I said, voice lower than I meant it to be. I like you. Not the pity kind of like or curiosity about the age thing. The real kind. The kind that keeps me up thinking about you. The kind that makes me want to be better than just the guy hauling bricks. She froze. The room went still except for the tick of the wall clock. She put her pizza down carefully, wiped her fingers on a napkin like she needed the extra seconds. Caleb, she said finally, I'm 13 years older than you. I know. I've been married, divorced. I've fallen and gotten back up so many times I'm tired of standing. I know that too. She stood up, walked to the balcony door, pushed it open. The night air rolled in, cool and dry. I followed because I couldn't not. You're young, she said to the dark beyond the railing. You'll wake up one day, look at me, and wonder why you settled. The lines on my face, the years I carry that you haven't lived yet. You'll resent it. Or worse, you'll stay out of guilt. I stepped up beside her, close enough to feel the heat from her arm but not touching. Maybe, I said. But right now, tonight, I'd regret not saying it more than anything else. She turned then, eyes searching mine in the low light. For a moment I thought she might lean in, or tell me I was right, that this could be something. Instead, she just shook her head, small and sad. I can't be the reason you miss out on the life you're supposed to have. She went back inside. I stayed on the balcony a minute longer, gripping the rail until my knuckles went white. When I left that night, she didn't walk me to the door. 3 days. No texts, no calls. She didn't show at the site. I drove past her building twice, saw her car gone both times. Work felt heavier, the bricks like lead in my hands. I snapped at one of the guys for nothing, went home and punched the bag in my garage until my hands bled again. I'd finally said the truth out loud, and it scared her away. For the first time, the quiet I'd always liked felt like punishment. Like the space she'd left was bigger than anything I'd ever carried. The rumors started small but spread like dust devils across the site. A couple of the guys had seen Eleanor's car parked outside my place one night. Nothing happened, she just dropped off a book I'd mentioned, but that was enough. Whispers in the lunch tent, sideways glances when I walked past. One afternoon I overheard one of the older loaders muttering to his buddy while they smoked. It's just a phase. Lonely older women always go for the young dumb ones who don't know better. He'll figure it out when the novelty wears off. I dropped the bag of cement I was carrying, turned around, and got in his face before I could think. Say that again. He smirked, not backing down. You heard me, kid. We would have gone at it right there if the foreman hadn't stepped in, grabbing my arm and pulling me away. He chewed me out in front of the whole crew the next morning, unprofessional, distracting, all that shit. I took it, jaw clenched, but inside I was burning. It wasn't just words. It was her they were talking about. The woman who'd trusted me with pieces of herself no one else got to see. I quit 2 days later. Told the foreman I had something else lined up, but really I just couldn't stomach the looks anymore. Found work at a smaller warehouse a few miles out, loading and unloading freight for a supply company. Less pay, longer hours, but at least the guys there minded their own business. I told myself it was temporary, that I'd figure things out once the sting faded. But the sting didn't fade. Eleanor was still gone. No word, no sign. I'd drive by her building sometimes after shifts, slow enough to see if her light was on, then hate myself for it. I threw myself into the new job, lifting until my back screamed, coming home to collapse on the couch with a frozen dinner in silence. The apartment felt bigger without the thought of her texts lighting up my phone. A week into the new gig, I was wrestling a heavy crate down the ramp of a delivery truck, sweat mixing with the dust from the loading dock. The sun was high, beating down relentless when I glanced up and saw her. Eleanor, standing at the bus stop across the street, maybe 30 feet away, slimmer than I remembered, or maybe it was the way the light hit her. She had a rolled-up sketch pad under one arm, sunglasses hiding her eyes, looking like she was waiting for something that might never come. I set the crate down hard, wiped my hands on my shirt, and crossed the street without thinking. Cars honked as I jaywalked, but I didn't care. When I got close, she looked up, and for a second, neither of us moved. "I don't want to be your next scar," I said, voice rough from disuse and everything else. She didn't flinch, just looked at me, really looked like she was seeing past the dirt on my clothes and the exhaustion in my eyes. "I thought I wasn't worth loving anymore," she said quietly. "That letting someone in would just end the same way, but you made me want to try. Even if it's just once. Even if it scares me." A bus pulled up, hissed to a stop, but she didn't move toward it. People brushed past us on the sidewalk, but it felt like we were the only two there. I stepped closer. Not touching, just close enough to feel like we were choosing this. She nodded once, small. "Okay." I took the sketch pad from her arm without asking, slung it over my shoulder with my own stuff. We walked the few blocks to her apartment in silence, side by side, shoulders almost brushing. The city noise faded behind us. Inside, she kicked off her shoes, I did the same. We sat on the couch under that same warm lamplight, knees touching now. No tea this time, no words for a while. But the space between us wasn't empty anymore. It was full of everything we hadn't said yet. And for the first time since she'd disappeared, I could breathe. A year passed like that. Quiet, steady, hours. I left the warehouse gig after a few months and started working at a small pottery studio owned by a buddy from high school. Nothing big, just throwing clay, firing pieces for local shops, teaching a beginner class on weekends. The work was slower, cleaner. My hands stayed busy shaping bowls and mugs instead of hauling freight, but they still ended up rough, stained with slip and glaze. I liked it. Felt like building something that lasted even if it was just a coffee cup someone would use every morning. Eleanor reopened her art studio, not the old one, that was gone for good, but a small space downtown, bright windows, kids' drawings taped to the walls. She taught classes 3 afternoons a week, little ones with paint smeared on their cheeks, teenagers who showed up quiet and left talking. Seeing her there, sleeves rolled up, laughing at a 7-year-old's lopsided vase, did something to me every time. She was alive again, not fixed, none of us were, but moving. We moved in together not long after that day at the bus stop. Her apartment was bigger, but we found a place in between. Second floor of an old brick building near the university district, balcony overlooking a scrappy mesquite tree. We filled it slowly. Plants she babied on the rail, string lights that flickered when the wind picked up, a kiln I built in the spare room because she said my pots deserved to be fired at home. Mornings were mine. I'd wake before dawn, make coffee strong enough to stand a spoon in, kiss her forehead while she grumbled about the light. Then out the door to the studio, clay under my nails by noon. Evenings were hers. I'd come home to the smell of turpentine or whatever medium she was into that week. Find her at the easel in one of my old shirts, hair twisted up with a brush. Some nights she'd be tired from the kids, paint on her cheek like war paint, and I'd pull her to the couch, rub her feet while she talked about their stories. Other nights I'd be the quiet one, sore back, sore everything, and she'd drag a stool over, dip a brush in water-soluble ink, and paint tiny temporary tattoos on my arms. Desert flowers, tiny coyotes, things that washed off in the shower but stayed in my head. We didn't talk about the past much anymore, no need. It was there, in the way she sometimes stared out the window too long, or how I'd wake up reaching for her if she got up first. But it didn't rule us. One Saturday afternoon, about 13 months in, We were out on the balcony repainting the railing. The old white had chipped in the sun, so we decided to go with this deep teal she'd mixed herself. I was on my knees with the brush. She was up on the step stool, reaching the high spots, both of us splattered like kids. She paused, paintbrush dripping, and looked down at me. "I used to think," she said, voice soft under the hum of cicadas, "I'd be alone the rest of my life. That was the plan. Safe. And I thought, you'd leave. That one day you'd see the years on me and walk." I set the brush down, stood up slow, wiped my hands on the rag tucked in my belt. Looked at her, really looked. The faint lines around her eyes from laughing, the way the sun caught the silver starting in her hair. Still the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. "You thought wrong," I said. She smiled, small and real. The kind that started in her eyes and ended with the brush dropping to the floor. I reached into my pocket, pulled out the thing I'd been carrying for weeks. Simple silver band, thin, scratched a little from my nervous fingers. Nothing fancy. Nothing that screamed forever in capital letters. "Not a proposal," I said, holding it out. "No kneeling, no crowd, none of that. Just, if you ever want out, take it off. But if you keep it on, I'm here. For good." She stared at it, then at me. Eyes shiny but steady. Took the ring, slid it on her finger like it had always belonged there. Then stepped down from the stool, pressed her paint-smudged hand flat against my chest, right over my heart. It beat hard under her palm. We stood there while the sun dropped low and red over the desert, painting everything gold again. Didn't kiss, didn't need to. Just held on. We never got married on paper, never felt the need. The ring stayed on. The studio grew. My pottery started selling at weekend markets. Kids called me Mr. Caleb when they came over for lessons. Life kept moving, quiet and ordinary and ours. Some nights I'd wake up and watch her sleep, trace the ring with my thumb, and think about that first day, the tape on my hand, the words she'd let slip under the dying sun. Turned out she hadn't been wrong about one thing. I was quiet. But with her, I never felt like shutting up again. And that's how it stayed. No explanations needed, just us.